What's up, everybody? Love Hurts hit theaters this weekend, and I was really excited for this movie based on the trailers. I love Huy Quan. It looked like a lot of fun, but did it live up to my expectations? Let's get into it. Alright, I'm gonna get started with the plot of the movie because it was probably what angered me the most. It's not terrible, but it fails to capture your curiosity as they reveal one element of the twist in the first 30 minutes. They do have a second aspect to it that's revealed in the back half of the movie, but again, it doesn't draw your attention enough to make you care, or at least it didn't for me. They're kind of just going through the steps essentially, and in a hurry too, because they just don't want you to think about it too much. But this movie was in a hurry from the get-go, and it is just an 83-minute runtime, so I get it. It's a shorter movie, it's gotta move quick, it just needed more time to breathe. Like, it was suffocated. They tried getting away from the real estate thing to get back to the action so fast that I found it hard to believe Marvin loved that life as a realtor as much as he says he does, and he says it about 50 fucking times in the movie. It almost feels like the original idea for the movie was set entirely before Marvin leaves his brother's crime organization, then they changed it and still didn't want to abandon that idea. Now, that's speculation on my part. I've got no idea what happened. It's just everything from before that is so underdeveloped, but it's ripe with a promise that it chops away at the potential impact this story could have had. On top of that, the villains were, to be quite honest, terrible. King and Otis, which was Marshawn Lynch and Andre Erickson, were fun, I guess, but ultimately they end up pulling you out of major moments because of that, as I couldn't take any scene with them seriously. Now, Raven, which is Mustafa Shakir's character, has an epic intro going after Marvin. They have a dope fight, and he's a poet, so you're like, oh, this dude's gonna be a psycho. But then he gets sidetracked by Marvin's assistant, who for the entire movie, and this kind of ended up being funny. It's kind of a positive for the movie in a weird way, but I couldn't help but imagine her as a young Sweetie Reynolds from the multiverse. Like, I know that's my nerdy brain going to work, but it was just a funny little thing because they look very similar. He does kind of make a comeback though, Raven that is, in the third act too, but I was just expecting much more after his introduction. Then the big bad, the final boss, Mr. Knuckles, who's Marvin's brother and Daniel Wu's character, kept that underwhelming trend going. He's got guys going after Marvin, Merlo, his right-hand man, has guys going after Marvin, and you don't really fear for the main character at all. Like, don't get me wrong, I love that Marshawn Lynch is venturing into movies. He's hilarious, and it was an action comedy, but he and the rest of the villains in this movie were just brutal. It wasn't all doom and gloom though, as the cast, however underutilized some of them were really fun. Like I said, I love Ki Hu Kwan, and he did not disappoint for a second that he was on the screen. He just brings that lovable energy to every single role, and you can't help but root for the guy. Arianna DeBose, however, was a poster child of being misused in this movie, as her character is crucial to the emotional anchor of the plot, and you'd think with an actress of her level, they would do good with that, but they failed to find a way to hit that mark. As far as the supporting cast goes, I've said pretty much everything I need to about them. I don't want to harp on them anymore. Marshawn did probably exactly what he was asked. He was hilarious and hit sticking people left and right. I didn't expect much more. But if you're gonna do that, and it's fine, I get it. But whether it's an action comedy or a super serious action movie, you've gotta surround him with great talent, like they did in the movie Bottoms, which not action movie, but it's a comedy and it has incredibly deep moments despite his presence. But I did say it wasn't all doom and gloom, and a lot of that credit goes to Ki Hu Kwan. He carried this movie on his back, but it's also true because the action was incredible. It was far and away the best part of the movie, and that was no surprise as this was directed by John Wick fight coordinator Jonathan Eusebio, and I'm sorry if I mispronounced that last name, I tried my best. They get it going with the fights right away with the Raven versus Marvin fight and continue through the movie with plenty, whether it be Marvin getting thrown into a fridge and that whole fight at his house, Marvin and Raven teaming up towards the end, and even the final fight against his brother, who is an underwhelming villain. It was cool. A lot of that's due to the camera work involved too, which was an awesome experience. And so that's going to do it for my review of Love Hurts. Listen, I was disappointed by it, but I love Ki Hu Kwan enough that I'd say this is worth a trip to the theater, especially if you've got A-list or whatever, the free movie ticket services for your theater. It's a fun popcorn movie, and who knows, maybe you're going to connect with the story more than I did, and please come back and tell me how wrong I was if you do, as it lands at a 5 out of 10 in my books.